In this game, the village of Zernez is simulated in every physical aspect. The objectives of the game can be summarized as follows. Reduce the CO2 emissions by as much as 2,200 tons to get to zero for the village of Zernez. Meet the energy demand of this village with 100% locally sourced energy. This can only be accomplished if the demand is reduced, and this is one of the challenges of this game. The critical criteria, which will also determine the winner of this competition, is to implement all the measures at the lowest possible investment. This game is all about a team. The team must agree on a common strategy to reach the objectives, which is to be presented at the end of the game. Every member of the team is taking a specific role described later and must agree on each individual measure considering his or her role. Each such measure is reducing the CO2 emissions and/or increases the locally produced renewable energy, but is always requiring certain investment. The objective of reducing CO2 emissions and increasing the locally produced renewable energy can be accomplished by first reducing the energy demand and then addressing the energy supply, which we are looking for this village specifically to the respective buildings. The team must reduce the CO2 emissions entirely. In this game, the 2,200 tons of CO2 are represented by a total of 88 blue coins. Once all 88 blue coins are taken off the team's account, the team has reached the specific objective. In addition, the team must increase the locally produced renewable energy. The team has reached the specific objective once it has earned a total of 75 green coins. Associated investment with those measures are counted as yellow coins. No budget is given, but to win this game, the least investment is required when compared to the competing teams. That can easily be seen by the quantity of yellow coins which the team had spent to meet the above two objectives. Going through the different type of buildings of the village of Zernez, we'll start with the white buildings, which are heated either with wood or with locally produced renewable electricity. The various existing homeland protected houses are illustrated here by dividing the house in two portions, the lower and the upper part, to differentiate from the other buildings. Buildings heated with oil are shown with red envelopes, whether it be the traditional or the homeland protected building, either one is shown in red. Buildings which are connected to the district heating grid are illustrated with orange envelopes and with the associated yellow pipes. The following kind of questions should be raised for measures and decisions, starting with renovation of houses or keeping the oil heating, yes or no, and if yes, for all or just a few houses, to reduce the energy demand for the village. Should the oil-heated houses be connected or equipped with other devices, such as heat pumps, or connected to the district heating? What should happen with the district heating plant? Should it be extended, or should it be shut down, or upgraded to something more powerful? Just keep in mind that in case of upgrading, the existing power plant needs to be replaced, pipes added, new connections built, and in case of the shutdown, an alternative heat source needs to be installed. Currently, the entire electricity needs is satisfied by a nearby hydro power plant, thus already providing renewable energy. The question is, should the current power supply be extended using photovoltaic? And if yes, should the photovoltaic panels be put on a rooftop or freestanding somewhere? When reforestation takes place, we consider wood as a renewable local energy source. So the question is, should there be reforestation? And if yes, this can only be implemented in this game in combination with the district heating. And for each newly connected house, you will have to plant 3 trees. If you consider that the population of Zernez might be increasing, then new houses could be built. The question is, what kind of insulation and self-sufficiency those new houses should be? It is up to you to choose the quantity and the kind of new houses. Renovated houses will be with stars, just like indicated by those arrows. Pumps will be shown as those yellow outdoor units on the back side of the building, as can be seen inside the red circle. If you decide on placing photovoltaic panels on top of the buildings, it will be illustrated like here on the roofs. Those houses which you decide to be connected to the district heating grid will appear as orange, and the pipes you can purchase are shown here in yellow. To reduce the energy demand of the village, any or all of the following individual measures can be taken. Renovating buildings with oil heating is the first of the options. Such buildings are represented with red envelopes, as said, and by clicking on the button, you will see that this specific measure will affect 6 houses. You are asked to select those 6 houses on the board, which once done, it will credit you 6 blue CO2 coins, but will cost you 1 yellow coin of investment. In this game, a number of buildings are already connected to the district heating grid. Those are shown as yellow. Now, if you want to renovate those buildings, which is to reduce energy demand, the associated CO2 reduction is only 1 blue coin, and it costs you the same amount. It costs you 1 yellow coin of investment. By clicking on this button of renovation building with district heating, you will see that 6 of such buildings will have to be selected on the board. Given the likelihood that new buildings are to be constructed in this village, you have a choice of building self-sufficient buildings or buildings with energy producing. You can click on either one of those 2 buttons. In one case, it only represents an investment, while in the other case of buildings who produce energy, you will be credited 1 blue CO2 coin and account for 2 locally produced renewable energy coins. When clicking on the buttons, you will see that it represents, in each case, 6 new buildings. Getting now specifically to the energy supply to the buildings of Sarnetz, you have the option to upgrade the very old existing central wood fire plant power station, which will cost you only 3 coins. Alternatively, you can replace it by a central cogeneration plant, which obviously is much more costly, but provides you with a lot of local energy and a reduction of CO2. By clicking on the district heating connection, you will see that you have the option to connect 6 houses to the heating grid. Depending on the distance of that house to the existing grid, you will have to purchase in parallel a certain quantity of pipe meters. In this program, the length of the pipe is automatically calculated and the associated cost is taken off your account. The credits is also given automatically in terms of blue coins to reduce the CO2 emissions for 6 houses, 1 blue coin. Given that the central heating plant is operating on wood, you are obliged to do a reforestation. For each additional connected house to the heating system, you can plant 3 trees, bringing you 1 green coin. Alternatively, you could invest in on-site heat pumps. For 4 buildings, it gives you a credit on CO2 reductions and costs you only 1 coin. Alternatively, you can put photovoltaic panels onto the roof. For 36 houses, it only costs you 2 coins, and it brings you substantial local energy and some CO2 reductions because of the gray energy which otherwise would have been involved. If you do not like the photovoltaic on the roofs for this pretty village, you have an option to put them freestanding, and for 9 square meters of such freestanding photovoltaic panels, you can see the balance on the coins on this chart. This game is simulating interdisciplinary teams challenged by competition. As such, we are forming competing teams first. Each of the team has 5 roles. The CO2 manager's role is to ensure that the objective of reducing emissions by 2,200 tons is met, getting to 0 emissions for Zernez. As an energy manager, your primary objective is to obtain as much renewable, locally produced energy as possible. As such, you will gain those 75 coins requirement for this game. The questions you are raising is which measures increase the share of local energy, which measures should be preferred, and how would the wood required for some measures be made available locally, and where would implementation make sense? The success of the finance manager will determine whether or not your team is winning this competition. The objective is to minimize the expenditures and yet obtain the CO2 and local energy objectives. However, it always needs to be a compromise with all the stakeholders, and your task is to make sure that no excess money is to be spent. You are being part of the local council together with the CO2 manager and the energy manager. Your role as a representative of the inhabitants or of the tourist office is to make sure that the village remains as pretty as it is. No noise, no dirt, no ugly buildings from renovations. As a supplier of energy, today you are mostly selling oil. The question is, how can you protect your business going forward? And how can you still find compromises with the other team members of this game? Each team will need to have what we call a moderator. As such, this moderator can create a room after a password has been provided to him by the game master. When the moderator is in the room, he can share the room ID with the other team players so they can join. As every team member needs to have a role, in this game all players can first join as observers and discuss among themselves as to who wants or should be taking which role, and then the moderator can assign it to start the game. Any measure can only be implemented if all the team members agree on the action. The moderator can trigger a vote for everyone. If there is not a distinct agreement, nothing will happen and another vote can be triggered after more discussions. Every player can select a measure package and choose the board tiles he or she wants to implement. As soon as he or she confirms the package, it will appear on every other player as well. If they cancel, nothing will happen. For the player's choice to be implemented, he or she must ask the moderator to trigger a vote, and all players must vote yes to be implemented. If they disagree, current plans will remain unchanged. Latest at the end of the allowable time to play the game, each team prepares a verbal presentation of their strategy, explaining why they have decided on which measures. The other team will listen and is allowed to ask questions during the presentation. The game master will then provide feedback to each of the team, compare the proposed solution, and draw some conclusion before presenting the evaluation of the reference values and with respect to sustainability criteria. As a final point, a local expert will comment the solutions and compare it to local projects and the situation, and as to what extent the learnings can be transferred to the domestic environment.